Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Erin Bennell. I am a Senior Broadband Program Coordinator here at the Texas BDO. Thank you all for joining the Texas Broadband Development Office to the third of our four BEAD Challenge process webinars. Throughout this series, the BDO will provide updates and demonstrations of the various phases of the challenge process. All webinars will be recorded and posted on the BDO website to rewatch, share, and refer to as the BEAD Challenge process develops. As I mentioned before the start of this webinar, this is going to cover the same topic every single time. We will be going over some of the same information from webinars 1 and 2, but of course we will have a Q&A at the end. So after this webinar, participants should 1, know what the BEAD Challenge process is, why it's important, and how it may impact local communities. They will be familiar with preparations for eligible entities, including pre-registration, types of challenges and evidence required, and a little bit more. And they'll feel ready to take the next steps for the challenge process. So today we will provide a refresher of the BEAD program, the BEAD challenge process, and the BDO's anticipated timeline before reviewing acceptable challenge types. And then the BDO will provide demonstrations on how to create a challenge and how to submit resident input as an official challenge. If you would like a refresher on how to register for access to the BEAD Challenge portal, please visit our website for a recording of our first webinar from Wednesday, October 30th. At the end of our presentation, we will have time to answer questions. The chat is open for you to submit questions throughout this presentation. So before we dive into the specifics of the BEAD challenge process, just to review some of the frequent terminology we will be using, as outlined in the BEAD Notice of Funding Opportunity published by the National Telecommunication and Information Administration, or NTIA. So first, a broadband serviceable location, or a BSL, is a business or residential location in the United States at which mass market fixed broadband internet access service is or can be installed. An unserved BSL is a BSL that does not have access to internet speeds of 25/3 megabits per second or does not have access to internet at all. An underserved BSL is a BSL that has access to internet speeds of 25/3 megabits per second but does not have access to speeds of 100/20 megabits per second. A community anchor institution, or a CAI, is a school, library, health clinic, health center, hospital, or other medical provider, a public safety entity, institution of higher education, public housing organization, or community support organization that facilitates greater use of broadband service by vulnerable populations. A little bit more information about the BEAD program. It was created by the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act and was created to connect all unserved and underserved locations in the U.S. Texas received the largest allocation with $3.3 billion. Specific requirements of the BEAD program include developing a plan to achieve universal coverage for the state by maximizing deployment of end-to-end fiber, prioritizing projects providing broadband access to unserved, underserved, and community anchor institutions. Implement a subgrantee selection process within 1 year of the approval of the initial proposal, and focus on improving broadband affordability. With such high stakes, it is important that the BDO has the necessary information to award funding. The BEAD program is divided into 4 main stages. The first stage was the development of the 5-year action plan, which was approved in August of 2023. The 5-year action plan provided an analysis of the state of broadband to guide the BDO throughout the development of the initial proposal. The second stage was the development of the initial proposal. The initial proposal is divided into 2 volumes. Volume 1 outlines the steps and requirements for the BEAD challenge process and was approved in April of 2024. Volume 2 outlines the subgrantee selection process and the office's plan to reach universal service. Volume 2 was approved in November of 2024. The third and fourth stage are implementing the activities outlined in the initial proposal, Volume 1 and 2. Before we dive into the specifics of the BEAD challenge process, let us provide some background about why this process is necessary. The Broadband Development Office uses the Federal Communication Commission's, or FCC's, National Broadband Map to gain a better understanding of the service availability in the state. Industry stakeholders provide their service data to the FCC to assist in this process. After receiving the information, the FCC allows providers, local governments, and interested parties to challenge the data to get the most accurate picture of broadband availability before it is published and available to the public. However, the process to update the national map takes about 1 year. Since the last update to the map, progress has been made to connect more locations using federal, state, local, and private funds. The Texas BDO will be implementing the BEAD challenge process to improve the map and ensure funding eligibility across the state is accurately represented. The goal of the BEAD challenge process is to create a comprehensive and final list of eligible locations. At the end of the BEAD challenge process, all locations identified as unserved and underserved will be eligible for BEAD funding. The BEAD challenge process will also assist the BDO in identifying locations that have not been labeled or have been mislabeled as a CAI. Second, eligible challengers include units of local government, nonprofit organizations, and service providers. Individual residents will not be able to submit an official challenge. Instead, the BDO has elected to use a resident input tool that will accept evidence and feedback from an individual that may be submitted by an eligible local government or nonprofit. Third, the Texas BEAD challenge process will officially begin on Tuesday, December 3rd, 2024. Congratulations, everybody. We've made that date. Eligible challengers will be able to access the portal through their account and submit evidence under the appropriate challenge type. Eligible challengers will have 14 days to submit all challenges via the portal. The final update to the portal occurred 7 days before the start of the challenge phase on Tuesday, November 26, to provide challengers time to double-check their submission before the challenge phase begins. Individual locations displayed on the map will be eligible for challenge. Challengers will not be able to challenge the position of a location or if a location meets the definition of a BSL. A full list of eligible challenge types can be found in the Texas Initial Proposal, Volume 1, available on the BDO website. Eligible nonprofit and community organizations may include the list provided here on the screen. This is not a comprehensive list. If you have any concerns that your organization is not considered an eligible challenger, please reach out to the BDO for clarification. Broadband service providers are also able to challenge and include any and all types of ISPs, including providers currently servicing locations in the state of Texas and prospective providers. Local governments are also allowed to participate, and a list of some eligible government entities are included here on the slide. Again, this is not a comprehensive list. If you have any concerns that your organization is not considered an eligible challenger, please reach out to the BDO for clarification. Pre-registration opened on Monday, November 4th. Eligible challengers were able to submit their information to be approved as an eligible challenger and access the portal. Registration is still open, so if you have not registered to participate, you are still able to do so. Challenges are currently being accepted, and they will be accepted until December 17th. We published our official list of eligible locations on November 26th with the broadband availability status and providers servicing each location. Participants can look up locations on the map or by entering an address into the provided search bar. The challenge phase will last 14 days. Once the 14-day window has ended, the BDO will review submissions to identify qualifying challenges. 6 weeks after the challenge phase has ended, the BDO will notify all challenged service providers and CAIs of their pending challenges. They will then have 14 days to respond with evidence. This period is known as the rebuttal phase. Once the rebuttal phase has ended, the BDO will review all evidence provided and make a final determination for each challenge. In spring of 2025, the BDO will submit its final determination to NTIA for approval. Once the BDO has received approval from NTIA, the office will publish the final map and location lists. All locations determined to be unserved and underserved will be eligible for BEAD funding. In order to prepare for the BEAD challenge process, the BDO strongly encourages participants to register for a CostQuest license. A CostQuest license is not required to participate in the BEAD challenge process. However, it will give you access to the same data provided by the BDO on the portal and will allow the BDO to provide a template for bulk challenges. There are 10 main eligible challenge types with a unique code. Today, I will provide a quick overview of the 10 challenge types. For more information, please review the approved Texas Initial Proposal, Volume 1, available on the BDO website. So first is challenge type A, availability. Broadband service identified is not offered at the location, including a multi-dwelling unit. Examples of acceptable evidence include a screenshot of the ISP website, service request reviews within the past 180 days, lack of suitable infrastructure, a letter or email dated within the past 365 days that indicates an ISP failed to schedule service installation or offer an installation date within 10 business days of a request, or a letter or email dated within the past 365 days indicating an ISP requested more than the standard installation fee to connect this location, or that an ISP quoted an amount in excess of the ISP standard installation charge to connect service at the location. Challenge type D, data cap. The only service plans marketed to consumers impose an unreasonable capacity allowance or a data cap. Examples of evidence include screenshot of the ISP website or service description from ISP to the consumer. Challenge type T, technology. The technology indicated for this location is incorrect. An example would include a manufacturer and model number of residential gateway that demonstrates the service is delivered via a specific technology. Challenge type B, business service only. The location is residential, but the service is offered is marketed or available only to the business. Examples include a screenshot of the ISP webpage. Challenge type P, planned service. The challenger has knowledge that broadband will be deployed at this location by May 30th, 2025 without an enforceable commitment. Examples of acceptable evidence include construction contracts or similar evidence of ongoing deployment, along with evidence that all necessary permits have been applied for or obtained, or contracts or similar binding agreements between the BDO and the ISP committing that planned service will meet the BEAD definition and requirements of reliable, qualifying broadband, even if not required by its funding source. Challenge type N, not part of enforceable commitment. This location is in an area that is subject to an enforceable commitment to less than 100% of locations, and the location is not covered by that commitment. You can see the BEAD NOFO at 36 for more information on this particular type of challenge. An example of acceptable evidence includes a declaration by the ISP subject to the enforceable commitment. Challenge type E, enforceable commitment. The challenger has knowledge that broadband will be deployed at this location by the date established in the deployment obligation. An acceptable form of evidence would be an enforceable commitment by ISP. In the case of tribal lands, the challenger must submit the requisite legally binding agreement between the relevant tribal government and ISP for the locations at issue. When the enforceable commitment involves an obligation to deploy at speed below 100/20, the ISP can escalate its service commitment by the process described in the next slide. Which brings us to challenge type ESC, escalating service commitments. The challenger offers to deploy broadband service at speeds that are faster than required by a pre-existing enforceable commitment. Escalation must be completed by June 30th, 2025. A location will not be reclassified as served without a signed commitment. Examples of acceptable evidence include evidence of network assets and/or broadband infrastructure already deployed by the challenger to the area, evidence of the fulfillment of a previous enforceable commitment signed by the challenger. Challenge type C, the location is a CAI, which is asking for the location to be classified as a CAI. Evidence includes evidence that the location falls within the definition of a CAI set by the BDO, and that full definition can be found on page 13 through 16 of the Texas Initial Proposal, Volume 1. Challenge type R, the location is not a CAI. The location is currently labeled as a CAI, but is a residence, a non-CAI business, or is no longer in operation. Examples of evidence include evidence that the location does not fall within the definition of CAIs set by the BDO, or evidence that it is no longer in operation. And with that, we are going to show a quick demonstration video of the challenge portal navigation, and just to give you all a little refresher. So this first one is going to be how to create a challenge.
This demonstration shows how a permissible challenger can create and add a challenge to their dashboard. There are two ways to create a challenge. The first way is directly from the challenge dashboard by clicking Add a Challenge, and the second way is from the map using the Add a Challenge button. For today's demonstration, we will be adding the challenge directly from the dashboard. Go ahead and click Add a Challenge. The next step will be to select your challenge category. Review the category options and their descriptions. And if you are looking for more in-depth guidance on each challenge type, you can click here to view the challenge type guidelines. For today's demonstration, we will be using planned or existing service. Step 2 is to select your challenge type. Step 3 is to provide your challenge details. Simply fill out all the required fields and click Next. Step 4 is to select your locations. There are multiple selection methods available. The first way is to go ahead and upload a shapefile of your service area. The second way is to select locations from your zone list that you would have previously created. And the third way is to select the locations individually by clicking on the individual BSLs, or another option is to hold the Shift key and drag a box around several locations. Once your locations are selected, you can click Confirm. Your selected locations will be listed here. You will want to go ahead and download the location spreadsheet with the location IDs. Note that an NTIA Fabric license is required to match location IDs with addresses. Once you've gone ahead and downloaded the location spreadsheet, you can click Next. Step 5 is to provide evidence and documentation for your planned service challenge. In this case, it's asking you to upload construction contracts or similar evidence of ongoing deployment, along with any necessary permits that have been applied for or obtained, as well as any contracts or similar binding agreements. Once your evidence has been uploaded, you can click Next. The very last step is your attestation. Go ahead and read the attestation and click I confirm, and then you can submit your challenge. Once the challenge is submitted, it will be in your challenge dashboard here. This concludes the demonstration. Thank you so much. This demonstration shows how a permissible challenger can create and add a challenge.
Alrighty. And our next demonstration is going to be how to submit a resident input as an official challenge.
In this video, I'll demonstrate how a permissible challenger can submit a challenge on the behalf of a resident. We begin on the resident inputs dashboard. The first step is to select a challenge that has a not challenged status. Go ahead and click View Details. The map will zoom you into the address. You'll want to click the dot nearest the address that it's zoomed into. Next, you'll want to begin reviewing the evidence that the resident has provided. Some things you can look for are that the address that the resident submitted matches the address on the map, You can also look for their provider and make sure that this provider is in fact serving to this address and that it is in a served status. Next, you can download all the evidence that the resident has provided by clicking Download All Files and review the evidence provided by the resident. If the evidence is insufficient, you can use the contact information provided by the resident here to reach out to the resident and ask them for better evidence or for them to redo their challenge entirely with sufficient evidence. If the evidence they provided was in fact sufficient, you can go ahead and click Create Challenge here. Once the challenge is created, you can go back to the resident inputs dashboard and you'll see that this particular challenge has moved now into a challenged status. This completes the demo. Thank you so much. In this video,
A few suggestions for documenting and aggregating challenges. When submitting evidence, a few details should be considered. First, when submitting an image as evidence, ensure that the quality of the image and the resolution is sufficient enough to be processed through the portal. Second, take the necessary steps to ensure privacy of personal identifiable information. Third, if you are missing the location ID for a location, use the Texas BEAD challenge map to locate the information. In some cases, the address of the location may not be enough information to submit a successful challenge. Fourth, regularly check your email and portal account for notifications of challenges submitted against your service area. For individuals, reach out to local eligible entities such as nonprofits or your local government participating in the challenge process to share information related to an eligible challenge, such as sharing evidence for an availability challenge. And of course, sign up for the BDO's monthly newsletter for updates. For additional assistance, the National Telecommunication Information Administration has provided a template for challenge submissions to ensure each challenge is tied to the appropriate evidence. This template will be available on the challenge portal for your use. Additionally, the BDO has received some feedback on the CSV files available on the challenge registration page. Due to the number of locations in the state of Texas, interested parties may have difficulties opening the served file. The BDO recommends using a data processing software that can process up to 10 million data points, such as Power BI. This is not an endorsement of Power BI, but it is the one that the BDO uses. If you continue to experience challenges opening the file, please reach out to our helpline for assistance. So what's next? If you have not, please register to participate in the BEAD challenge process. Even if you have no intention of submitting a challenge, an account may still be necessary for the rebuttal phase. Registration will be available until Wednesday, January 22nd, 2025. For residents, more information about the resident input tool is available on the registration page. And finally, stay up to date with the BDO throughout the BEAD program. To learn more about the BDO and the challenge process, please visit the outreach page on our website. Our website will have the link to sign up for our monthly newsletter. You can add our monthly roundtable to your calendar and the link to register for the next webinar in the BEAD challenge process series. Registration for this webinar does not automatically register you for the next webinar. A recording of this webinar will be available on our website shortly. And with that, we will now turn to your questions.
My question is, and maybe I'm getting ahead of myself, with regards to the county, the census tracts, that I see on the challenge map that they are defined based on 2020 census data. When we move to the application phase, will those final locations all be specifically tied? Will they have an identifier that will say which of those census tracts they fit in, or will it be up to us to basically use a shapefile to identify where those locations fall? I'm just trying to figure out if there's any concern that there might be some mismatch there, right?
No, thank you for pointing that out. That is something the BDO is still considering and developing at this time. We're in the process of developing more information about what subgrantee selection may look like and whether or not we will be using census tract codes from a certain year, and how we will organize all of the available locations based off of those census tracts. So yes, it's a little early right now, but we will provide all of that information as soon as we possibly can.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Of course. All right, Wes, it looks like you're up next.
Hey, thanks for continuing to do this. This is great. A question, and I think this kind of ties to Teresa's question in the chat about the CSV uploads. We can do bulk challenges. We can upload a CSV file. I just want to confirm that.
Yes, you can upload CSV files with the location IDs to submit an eligible challenge. There is a limit to 250 locations for each bulk challenge.
Okay, and the kind of a follow-up question on that. You mentioned a template. Is there a template out there that? I mean, it's just a CSV. It's just a list of location IDs. But is there some specific template you want us to use for that?
We would recommend using the template available on the BEAD challenge portal. Any templates that are available and recommended to use are tied to each individual challenge type.
Okay, I'll have to go back and look at. So one more question on the challenge evidence. I assume that anything that we load into the portal associated with the challenge is going to be visible to anybody with portal access. So there's no, like if you have a contract with pricing in it, or if you're submitting a network diagram, all of that's going to be publicly available to anybody that has access to the portal. Is that correct?
That is not fully correct. So all of the BDO will have access and will be able to see all of that information. We do encourage you to review all of your evidence before to make sure any confidential private information is redacted that is not relevant to the challenge itself. Because we are a state organization, this information does have the potential to become public and is submitted to NTIA at the end. So that is really just for you and your organization to make the final determination on if you're okay with this being public. However, another organization who's registered to participate in the challenge process is not going to be able to see the evidence that you've submitted.
Oh, okay. So they want, when we said, say, for example, a planned service challenge, we've submitted a network diagram and somebody wants to rebut that planned service challenge, they won't be able to see the network diagram.
No, they'll be able to have enough information in order to rebut any information, but we will not be sharing just confidential information available to the entire public.
Great, thank you.
You're very welcome. All right, Julia.
Thank y'all for continuing these webinars. These are very helpful. Going back to the template, you're saying it's on the dashboard, correct? The Texas Broadband Challenge portal. Where exactly is it on the challenge portal?
So it's tied to individual challenge types. If there is a template available for a certain challenge type, then it's available there. So you would have to go start a challenge, select which challenge type you would like to submit, tie all of your locations to that challenge, and then a template. If a template is used for that type of challenge, then it will become available. But it's not just openly available on the portal.
For preparation purposes, can y'all make it readily available so we're not having to do it as we go through?
I believe the only real template type there is the collection of the location ID, so that it's easier for you to identify which evidence type is connected to each individual location. So once you have kind of one template, you have a template for everything.
So there's not multiple templates. So the template that is uploaded that y'all are having is an Excel document that has a column that says location _ ID, and then we have the location underneath that. Is that the template?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
And also, when it comes to the bulk challenges, can we submit the bulk locations and the evidence together?
I believe it's 2 separate uploads. Let me double check if one of our team members is here. It looks like Clint. Could you maybe double check on that one for me?
That is correct. There is a place for the CSV of the location IDs, and then or you can select them with the interactive map, and then there's a place for the evidence. to be uploaded.
So we have the loc IDs, and then for like the screenshots, right? Can we tie that together into one submission? Or, you know, we have the 250 that we're submitting, and then the next page is, I think, evidence, you said. Do we have to separate that out from that bulk list, or can we submit the 250 screenshots? Or does it have to be individual?
You can combine those 250 screenshots
Okay.
into one PDF and submit that.
Okay.
As long as you identify the location within each PDF. So it's
Okay.
clear, right? So it's not the same screenshot 250 times.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Clint. All right, Ryan, you're up.
Hey, Aaron. Good afternoon. Sorry, I did put this question in chat. I'm from Harris County, and currently in the portal, I see 4 challenges under the resident inputs for different counties. Is that supposed to be there, or should I only see Harris County?
You can see every resident input, and it is up to you if you want to submit all of them on their behalf, or if you want to only submit on behalf of Harris County residents.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Julia?
Sorry, one more question. There's one part where it says the image that we have to upload has to fit the resolution, an image size. Do y'all have that information of what that resolution image size has to be?
I do not. Clint, do you know what the minimum is that it can accept?
Give me 1 second, looking that up right now.
We will put that answer in the chat for you, Julia, just so you can have that ready to go.
I appreciate it. Thank y'all so much.
You're very welcome. Alrighty. And with that, I guess we'll move on over to the chat. So first question, are these slides available on the BDO website? These slides will not be available on the website, but we will have a recording of the entire webinar available very shortly after this. Is there a way to upload a CSV file for a planned service challenge? Yes, you can submit a CSV file with all of the locations included in that planned service. We do have a limit of 250 locations per bulk challenge. Due to the relatively short challenge period and the fact that Texas is such a large state, will the December 17th deadline be extended? The BDO does not have any intentions of extending the deadline past December 17th. As you mentioned, we are a large state with a lot of locations, and we are anticipating a large number of challenges. Each state was given a limit of 180 days in order to get this done, and so that timeline does not change for us either. We have to complete our entire review of challenges submitted and the rebuttal period, so we will need the entire time in order to make a fair and competitive and transparent process. Noticing BSLs that are copper base being shown as served within the challenge map, are copper networks considered served? Yes, the Texas Initial Proposal Volume 1 does outline that copper networks are considered a served type of technology. Is there a size limit for the attached evidence for a given set of 250 bulk challenged location IDs? Clint, I apologize. Oh, he has that answer right below. Compress all files over 100 megabits in size to a zip file. Total file upload size is capped at 500 megabits. Is the specific time deadline on December 17th at 11:59 p.m. Central Time? The official time is December 17th at 5 p.m. Central Time.
With regard to the data limitation, the timeline limitation on data to support a challenge, I was curious if you could, talk a little bit about the reasoning for a 180-day limitation on data to support a challenge. So, for example, a propagation study that would look at the viability of fixed wireless in line of sight. That really doesn't depend on, like 180 days. It's not like technology changes, is going to change that line of sight issue. Could you help me understand what the 180-day limitation is based on? And would the BDO accept data propagation studies that might be older than 180 days if it's still valid based on the technology limitations?
So I just want to clarify, are you talking about the timeline related to the BEAD challenge process, 180 days, or a specific challenge type?
Yeah, I thought I'd read in the document, in the guidance that that a study or the data to support a challenge couldn't be more than 180 days old.
Right. Okay. And just to clarify, which challenge type are you looking at?
So service availability.
Okay.
So yeah. So for example, if an ISP had done a propagation study, a year or 2 years ago and had identified that, fixed wireless wasn't a viable way to deliver reliable service, could that be used as evidence of a service availability challenge, even if it's 2 years old?
If it's 2 years old, that is outside of the time frame that we're allowing. We're more focused on what is currently available to these locations, not if it's feasibly impossible. So if there is evidence that a fixed wireless of any kind technology is not able to provide 100/20 at this very moment to these locations, that is the evidence that we need to have, especially if the study that we have is only 2 years old. A feasibility study within that 180 days, that is something that we can review and evaluate and consider as part of our review process, but it does need to fit inside that scope.
Oh, I'm sorry. I think you were done. Thank you for that response, Erin. My apologies.
No, you're good. Happy to help. Julia, I see your question in the chat. There is not a template. So the template should come down after you select your location IDs, and that's that Excel file that you download.
Okay, so just to be clear, we're creating our own Excel document because there is not a template. It just says, I have to go back to it. From my recollection, it just says upload Excel document with a location ID. This is for the planned service challenge.
I see Clint has popped on. Clint, it might be best if you take over.
Yeah, when you if you can select one of the locations, it will pop up on the right. Then you could download the Excel file, and then you can populate it with your own. But essentially, if you just put the BSL IDs in a single column on the left-hand side of a CSV, it'll work. But if you want like a template, that would be the way to do it.
I see what you're saying. Okay, thank you.
And as a reminder, we also have office hours available tomorrow at 1 p.m. It's very casual. It's very much just please come if you have any questions, and we will do our best to answer those questions. There is no formal presentation or anything like that, just a space for you to get some answers that might be popping up as we're going through this challenge process. All right. Final chance to ask questions for this time around. Going once, going twice. Alrighty, thank you all so much for coming to our webinar. We will do our best to get the recording up on the website as soon as humanly possible. It will definitely be available before the end of the week. And if you have any questions between now and the end of and tomorrow, we are available for our office hour tomorrow at 1 p.m. The link to join that office hour is available on our website. So with that, thank you so much and have a great rest of your day.